Smoking Magic Ribs. Let's go. Alright guys, today we are going to talk ribs. So right here in front of me, we got some Prairie Fresh prime ribs. One of my favorite cuts, one of my favorite producers. Love this. Look at the marbling in these ribs. So when I'm selecting ribs in the store, I'm looking for that marbling right through here. I don't want an abundance of fat. I don't want a bunch of fat over here because I'm just going to end up shaving it off. It's a waste. But I'm looking for that marbling in there. Next thing I'm looking for, straight bones. These bones are relatively straight. Wished I'd had them last week at the Royal. But this is what I'm looking for. So I got 2 racks here. So let's go through a trim. So first off, I'm going to flip my package over backwards, going to the small bone side because I don't want to waste anything over here. I'm probably going to end up trashing a little bit over here. So I'm going to show you kind of a hybrid recipe today, somewhere in between competition and just blow your neighbors away. The first thing I check is I check this flap right here. The primes usually do not come with a big flap, but if you end up going to a supermarket and getting other brands, really watch out for what that package has in it. You'll want to read the ingredients on the back. If it's packed with a preservative, you're going to expect more salt in there. So your rubs need to be rolled back less salty or you will overpower. We figured that out early on in the process. So anyway, pay attention to your labels. Buy meat that you know. So we know Prairie Fresh meat. We use natural ribs in competition. When we can find the prime ribs we really like, we prefer the primes because the marbling is superior. All right, so getting into a trim here. First thing I'm doing is I'm getting rid of this end bone right here. I'm going to get me a little bigger knife. I'm going to come over and I'm going to try to keep as much meat as I can between those. And I'm just taking that end off. Actually, I'll probably go ahead and get the other one right here next to it. Nobody's going to want that. There's no meat there. It's just a bunch of fat. It's not even worth cooking, in my opinion. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to flip it around. I'm going to take a butter knife and I'm going to take this membrane off. So I'll come 2 bones in, just work that knife underneath, and as I'm lifting the knife, I'll stick my thumb underneath the knife to hold position. I'll grab a paper towel and pull it up. Sometimes it wants to fight. This one's a fighter. You will run across some of these that don't have much of a membrane on the back. So the membrane on this one is really thin. I'm not too worried to leave a little bit on here because it is thin. It will cook off at the high temperatures we're cooking at. So as you can see, we've got that trimmed down where we want. We got the membrane off. Now we are going to trim it to a size that we like. You can cook just like this. You can leave this end on right here, the tip on, but you're going to find some cartilage in there. It's really good meat back here. I used to, in the old days of cooking, would keep that and I'd put it on the pit and call it cooker snacks, but we don't really do that much anymore. So right here, usually it's the 4th bone up, but today since I already trimmed 2 off, it's going to be the 2nd to 3rd bone up. Find your tallest rib end. So I'm looking for the tip of the rib right here, and I want to take my knife and I want to go just like 1/8 of an inch above that, and I'm going to score and slice. And I don't go for it, like just go through it. I want to make sure that my cut is even across. So as you can see in there, you see what I was talking about, all that cartilage that's in there. The meat in between is really good. You can throw it on and cook it, munch on it, spit out the cartilage chunks, whatever you want to do. But if I'm cooking this for friends, family, or judges, I don't want this. So on a normal cook at home, I would cook this rack of ribs as it sits right here, and that's how I would trim it. But I'm going to go one step further. I'm going to show you what I do for competition as far as a trim. I will go down to 10 bones. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I got my 10th bone here. I'm going to make a, right here where my fingers are, find me a section, and I'm going to slice it, and I'm going to square this off. I will come in and I will clean these edges up and kind of round them off. Whether I'm cooking at home or I'm cooking for a judge, I'm always trying to cook pretty food. Especially for you guys watching, don't want you to see ugly food. And there you go. That's basically what it's going to be. Alright guys, now we're moving on to the injection part. So here's a little something that I came up with. This is my way of doing it. Something I found that works really well for not blowing these bones, these bigger bones over in the end. You might blow one at the very end, but I've managed, with this technique, I've managed to keep most of the bones usable within especially like a competition box. Around each bone there's a membrane. And my theory is, if I start taking these needles in between these bones and pumping them up, I'm breaking that membrane, which is allowing these big bones to pop out. So what I do differently is I don't inject between the bones. What I will do, usually with a lot smaller needle than this, is I will come in, I like to use a 14 gauge to a 16 gauge needle, but I will come in and just plump up the top. Like I said, this is just my technique. If you like going between the bones, go for it. No love lost. So for my injection, I'm using the Blues Hog pork marinade mixed with some Essentia 9.5 pH water. I've been using this water for the last probably 3 years. The alkaline actually helps maintain moisture in your meat. We do see a difference between that and a normal water. I don't really care for spring water that much. You get a lot of inconsistencies. But whatever water works for you, make sure you stick with that. Don't jump around water. I know there's teams that from other areas that just prefer their local tap water for the minerals. Bree absolutely loves rib injection time, because it's like the cleanest process ever. See that Old Faithful right there? So you can see as I'm hitting them, they're pumping up. Oop, got me. So right there is pretty much what I'm looking for. Alright, so time to put the flavor on these. As you can see, we got the injection in, they're all plumped up, or as we like to call hot dog. So I'm going to start on the back side of these ribs. First rub that's going on is the Smokin' Magic rib rub. This is a peppery, sweet, little bit of salty, adds a really good flavor and an amazing color at the end. So when I do shake, I hold it like a big pencil. And when they taught you this in grade school, I hold the same way. I'm holding where the holes are vertical, going up, because I want to give air and let those bigger grains come out. I go 12 to 18 inches above the cut that I'm rubbing, and I just slowly shake. I want a good coverage. As I'm doing that, you can see those big flecks of pepper in there. That's what I'm wanting. So now on the back side of these ribs, I don't go for a heavy coat. I've done this for years, that I just don't like it. It's my preference. Anyway, next coat, pork rub over the top. I'm gonna give a little color with this. This is bringing a lot more salt, a little more sweet, and really bringing that color with paprika. All right, so I'm gonna leave them just like that. They're gonna sit for 30 minutes with the bone side up to let that rub work in, and then I'll flip them over and we'll do the top. All right, it's been 30 minutes. You see that rub is really set in there. So what we're gonna do now, I always like to cook on a rack. This is a guaranteed, I know it's clean. I'm not putting any foreign tastes on there with any crap that's left on my grates. And it makes cleaning a smoker a heck of a lot easier. So what I will do is I will use this and I will put them side by side and I will scrunch them up. The way you leave it here is the way it is going to set up when it cooks. So if you leave it crooked like that, you're gonna have a rib with a big S in it. So what you need to find something and straighten it and get it lined up exactly how you want it. I like to also push mine together and make them really plump. Look how fat those girls are. So I'm gonna put the rub on the top now. We're gonna start back with that rib rub again. This time I'm gonna go a little bit heavier because I'm looking for that flavor pop on the top. I'm also looking for that peppery color at the end. And then back right over the top of that with our pork rub. These two rubs work very well together. It's a key combination when we talk about our pork that we won a world championship with last year. All right, the rub is all set in. It's time to go on the smoker. So we've got the Meyer Mixon Smokers pellet grill set up at 300 degrees. Gonna set this on the rack. Have them there for about an hour and 45 minutes. And then we will check for the bark, make sure the bark's set, and then we'll get to wrap. All right, so these things have been on for about an hour and 45 minutes. The row is all set on them. So it's time to get to wrapping. So one thing I like to do is right here on the ends, just for pretty, I like to get those little crunchies, little burnt bits off of it. Don't go crazy. Check the back, make sure there's nothing. And then on my wrap, I have 1 stick of butter cut in half. Again, using Kerrygold butter. This is the salted butter. Do the same with the second one. And then right over the top of the butter. I go bone side down. I know that a lot of guys go bone side up. Do what you like. This is the way I've done it for years and the way I'm comfortable with. Now, when we go into this wrap or this braise, I'm going to use Southern Twang. It's an apple cider vinegar based sauce. So I'll use about a half a bottle on each rib. Give or take. And I'm coming through with 100% pure maple syrup, amber. And then sugar in the raw. When I do sugar in the raw, I'm just taking a nice handful, just sprinkling across the top. Now I use sugar in the raw because it handles high temperatures better than brown sugar. And we're cooking at 300, 325. I need that high temperature sugar. Then we're just going to go into our wrap. Over the top. Crinkled in. And then we're going to put these back on for roughly, probably another hour and 20 minutes. Alright, time to check the ribs, see what we got. Smell good. So what we're looking for, when we pick them up, we're looking for a little bit of break. Oh yeah. Now we got that bend. Looking for tenderness. So what I'm going to do at this point, roll this up into a little boat. I'm going to hold all that in there. I'm going to throw some sauce on it. And we're going to take that, put it back on the pit, check the other one. Smoking Magic ribs. Let's go. They're tender. There you go. Tender.